Welcome to Watkins Glen International, and welcome to Grid Life at the Glen. Friday morning, Grid Life Touring Cup qualifying. I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Kramer. Greg, welcome aboard. This is my home track, my favorite place on planet Earth. I cannot wait to see the action this weekend.
Yeah, you've just been lit since we left CMP knowing what's coming, and it's totally understandable, folks. This track is about as history-laden as they get. It's special, it's fast, it's big consequence. This is a true old-school racetrack with immense challenges. When they repaved it in 2015, the paving job they did, even now, somewhat 8 years later, the track retains amazing grip, so you can carry incredible speed around this place. And there are a few tracks that are as pretty and picturesque as this one, sitting up on top of the hill, looking down over that little town of Watkins Glen and beautiful Seneca Lake. This place is special.
It really is special. Of course, Grid Life Live is powered by Hyundai N. Hyundai N, never just drive. And Falcon, the official tire of Grid Life Track Battle. 3.4 miles around here, Greg, 11 turns. We've got cameras at turn 1, the S's, the bus stop, turn 10. This is a big, big racetrack. It took a lot of effort and energy that is still actively ongoing to build out this live stream. This is the biggest job that they've ever done. Appreciate their efforts. I know it's been a really hard weekend so far, but this is an exceptional road racing facility. You got to capture all the corners because, first of all, it's hard to see them all because there's so much elevation that the track disappears over crests, and a lot of the corners are extremely consequential. The bus stop in particular, it's the farthest away from where we're sitting on the front straightaway, Greg, but you make so much speed over there. Jumping those curbs, it's such a critical corner.
And it's just immensely entertaining. You know, you watch the cars that are just hopping those curbs. A couple of drivers that have done track descriptions have said you have to just murder the curbs over there to really get through there quick. The other thing to be very aware of at this track is that the corners are a lot longer duration than you might think. So you've got to get into the corners fast. So you have to be willing to approach the corners, and the guardrails are close. So you need to really cinch it up. You carry a lot of entry speed, but then you have to employ patience, because what will either pitch you into a spin and maybe a wreck or make you slow is getting a little too greedy and trying to square up and get to the throttle early. And at the very least, you're going to lose all of your mid-quarter speed and come out slow. So you turn in with a lot of speed, and then you wait. You just get to that limit and just stay there and let that corner wrap up. Then you start to go. If you try and get to the throttle too soon, it'll either end up in an incident or you're just going to be really slow. And a lot of the times you're coming out of corners here and you're climbing. So if you get it wrong, then you're going to be super slow because you're going up a hill that everybody else is getting right.
This is Grid Life Touring Cup. This is our Power to Weight single-class road racing series. Sprint racing. We'll have our first race later this afternoon. This is qualifying. This sets the grid for our first race. There are over 50 cars on our entry list, Greg. It is an enormous entry list, and there's a lot of diversity. See, rolling down pit lane now, there is David Rudzinski's Chevy S10. It's powered by a Honda K24 under the hood of that car, or truck, I should say. There's Porsche Caymans, S2000s, M3s, Corvettes, motor-swapped FRSs. There's so much diversity here in this series, Greg, and there was a lot of discussion this season about the parity between all these different cars and types of cars. And one of the challenges for some of the lighter, lower-powered cars is coming out of slow corners, what we call digs. Not a lot of those here. You're carrying so much speed that you're never really slowing down all that much. So I think we're going to see some probably better parity than we were expecting for it being such a fast track. I do think that some of the lower powered cars will run into a drag problem, especially at the end of the back straightaway. Cars like James Houghton's car, his Acura TSX, that's built to be a bullet. It's built very aerodynamically and for top-end speed. That car might be doing 140 miles an hour to the bus stop. Others might be only doing 125.
Right.
So we're going to see some pretty big speed disparity over there too.
Well, that's true. And if you're a less horsepower car, with the long straights here, you want somebody that you can draft with, that you can tuck in, have them help you as you go down the long straight so that you don't run into that wall of air with a slightly underpowered car. But, you look at this, and this is essentially a momentum track. There are a couple of snug corners, but for the most part, you're up always into momentum. And if you've got a lighter weight car, you can flow speed through the corners. So you can do very well here. One of the interesting corners, turn 9 is one of the trickiest corners that you can imagine, as it's a completely blind turn in. It's the one that you see the cars coming into. It's a blind turn in, and right as you commit, it flattens out, and essentially it almost goes off camber because you come over a little rise, and that barrier's right there. If you turn in too soon, you carry too much speed in, you miss your turn-in point. It's a corner where you can really get in trouble there. Talking to Tom O'Gorman, who's raced here quite a bit, he said the turn is technically an increasing radius corner. Once you turn in, it opens up, but it drives very much like a decreasing radius corner because of that very tendency there, and the fact that you tend to push out if you don't square it a little bit more. Lots of little nuance like that here. And then the S's that we're looking at the entry to here, that run up through the S's here, the elevation, no TV camera is ever going to give you a real sense of it. It is a steep climb, and look at how close those barriers are. There are spots, it's a street course, and it's fast.
It really is fast, and this is one of the things we talked about coming into this event for Grid Life Touring Cup car in particular. When you leave turn 1 at the very far left of that shot, you get back on throttle. You don't lift for 30 seconds. You're on power up this 110-foot climb through the S's, all the way down the backstretch until the bus stop, and you just go, go, go. It is such a crazy fast racetrack. Even the bus stop, you go down a gear or two, but you're sailing over the curbs and not really slowing down all that much. So it really is a high momentum track, high aero track in a lot of places, especially in the booth, which we don't have any trackside cams down there. We'll have drone coverage for you there later today. But it is just a phenomenally fast track. And one of the cars on track, Greg, is the number 82 of Eric Cantil. The last couple months have been quite the ride for Eric Cantil. Back after Circuit of the Americas, on the way home, in the middle of the night, they had a road accident with that truck and trailer. It ended up upside down in a ditch on the side of the highway in Tennessee. And despite all the wreckage and carnage of the truck and trailer, the car, mostly unscathed. Eric Cantil, with the power of the community behind him, has put that car back together, put a new windshield in it, banged out some of the dents that were in it, and he's back on track. That is just a phenomenal display of community support, and for Eric Cantil, the perseverance he has had from the 2021 crash he had at Road America to rebuilding this brand new car all from scratch. He told me, he goes, I couldn't do this again if I had to. And he almost had to do it again. So we're very grateful for that, grateful that he and his dad are safe, but the car is back and racing this weekend.
Well, and the key word in that story was this community. They are fierce competitors on the track, but often they are very close friends, pretty much to a person throughout the paddock. And so when he had the incident, the amount of help that was rushed to him just from the community, just to get him back to where he can start working on the car, was absolutely amazing. And it's great to have him here. We got Jeremy Swenson, who won the championship 2 years ago. Eric, who won it the previous year. They're all here, and some awfully stout competition as well. A huge field. And there's a look at Eric, and that car does not look worse for the wear. And he is going to be wheeling it and having a blast.
And he's one of under 10 drivers in this 50-car field that has experience driving here, which I think is going to be worth a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're going to see Eric driving this car even a little bit faster. Now it's got a couple dents in it. It's not quite as perfect anymore.
There you go.
That's going to be the fastest race car on this racetrack, I guarantee it, at some point this weekend.
And you brought up a good point about the aero here. As I said, a lot of these corners here are long duration and they're quick. Well, that's where aero makes a huge difference. And if you're trying to run a car to be a little bit slippery and not have a lot of aero, this is the kind of track where it's going to hurt. Yeah, it's got a lot of grip, so you can really hustle the car a bit, but that aero really gets it planted and gets you working around. I mean, look at the duration there of the outer loop or turn 5. It goes on forever. You drop down into the laces of the boot, it goes on forever. That's just the nature of the corners here. And so downforce and having the power to be able to push through that downforce, that can be a big, big differential.
So again, we are qualifying here. We're working on timing and scoring. Again, the rules say that we have to hide it for a little while, but we'll have that timing and scoring up on screen. The reason for that, there's rewards weight in this session. So the top 3 in qualifying will get 3%, 2%, 1% weight to carry in race number 1. So the thought was, well, if they know where they are on the racetrack, maybe they can back it down a little bit and not get that rewards weight. So as soon as we get those times up, we'll show them on the timing and scoring for you. And we have a pretty quick morning here. Again, we're going to do GLTC qualifying, and then we'll break for much, and be back with drift for the first time ever at Watkins Glen International. So that is going to be absolutely very, very exciting. There is our timing and scoring so far, and the fastest driver in at least the first lap was Tyler Pappas, who we saw at Lime Rock Park last year for his first ever Grid Life Touring Cup weekend. And a 2:07.669 is the fastest time we've seen so far. And Greg, that's a quick time. We were talking before that we expected 2:07s to kind of be the peak. We're not at the peak yet. That's already just the first lap.
Yeah, this place is deceptively fast. I got a feeling he's got some track knowledge here. He came out and ran Lime Rock, which means he's a Northeastern guy probably, and has some track knowledge. Some of the regulars may not have the knowledge here. I mean, Jeremy Swenson already at a low 2:08, as is Matt Walbaum, Gutierrez right there as well. Interesting thing, you talked about the diversity, talking about the different cars. But with these cars, what you see sometimes is not what you get. You mentioned the engine swaps, but there's a Subaru BRZ with a V8 Chevy engine in it. There's a BMW with a big V8 Chevy engine horned into it. All of these cars, it's a pretty open rule set because it's all mitigated just by power to weight and then by modifiers for size of tire and aero. And so, you're looking at these cars and it just doesn't sound what I would think it would sound like. There's probably a very good reason for it. The amazing thing is particularly at the end of the race, you look at the race long times, they're all so close because the heavier, more powerful cars run their tires off a little quicker, and it makes it really exciting.
Here's a look at the boot section, added in 1971, turns 6 through 9. 6 is the left-hander at the top of the screen, then it's 7 at the toe, and then you head back to the heel, which is right at the bottom of the screen, turn number 8. We're going to have aerial coverage of this corner, a set of corners all weekend long. And while it is a newer section added to the racetrack, Greg, it actually retains some of the character of the old course. There's almost no runoff except for at turn 8 underneath us. 6 and 7, they're treacherous corners, especially in play.
Oh, very much so. I mean, the laces of the boot, as they call turn 6, and there you can see that shot, that outer loop into the laces, how long those corners run. And the laces, both the exit of the outer loop and all the way through the laces, you're falling down the hill, right? So that's where that patience really comes in, because if you get a little bit too eager and get to throttle too soon, you're just going to push wide. And then if you lift, you can snap into and have an incident, or you can push off the track. So that's where that enter fast and then be patient. Just find that edge, that limit, ride it until you can get that sight line really figured out, then squeeze the throttle as you unwind the wheel. If you give throttle when you still got input into the steering wheel, you're just going to induce push, right? So you've got to be patient on this track, but you've got to be willing, and this is the gut checkpoint. Enter with a lot of speed. The other thing is when you exit there, look how quickly you're immediately starting to turn into the outer loop. So if you over hustle through that last part of the chicane and have a bobble there, you're going to be slow for this entire run. But more importantly, if it snaps out on you, those barriers are really close again. So this is one of those tracks, a lot of consequence to this place. But when you get a lap right here, there are a few places that it's more satisfying.
It's such a smooth racetrack also with that repave. It's just very smooth, very fast, very grippy as well.
And I mean, you look at here, turn 8, that in the bottom right of your screen, that's about 110 degree corner, but it's not tight, right? It's long. I mean, that's how this track was built. All these long corners. And there's a great look at the laces or the downhill turn 6 center of your screen there. And again, you don't really see the elevation drop you have. And then when you get down into the toe of the boot, Kyle, it climbs right as you come off the brakes. So you can actually attack it a little bit more aggressively than you may think at first blush, because the hill goes up, gravity helps you a little bit getting around that turn.
Here's Jeremy Swenson working his way through turn number 10, the 2021 Grid Life Touring Cup champion. Came up a couple spots short last year, currently leads the points. He's had a real successful year so far, but the drivers that were chasing him, Matt Walbaum in particular from ASM, they said, you know what, Jeremy Swenson's beating us too much. We're going to go back to the drawing board. They built a head, they put a new head on this K24 for Matt Walbaum, and he's right behind on lap times right now. But Tyler Pappas still
look at
on.
Jeremy just dipped into the 207.
There he goes, and he's a 10 back. But Tyler Pappas still on provisional pole. Baton Rosenberg just jumped to 4th. Luke McGrew, another driver that has experience here, up to 5th. Cantil Curley, Jeff Preston, Joel Morrison, and Austin Hurdle round out your top 10 so far.
And I haven't had a chance to see Maton's car. I talked to him, but I didn't see the car, so I don't know. He was talking about getting some aero bits on that car and, paying the weight penalty a little bit, for the modifiers, but to get some aero on the car. And if he's got it here, it'll really pay dividends. But he's really having a great year. But you mentioned Paul Curley, and another guy who's just been spectacular this year is Luke McGrew, off to an incredibly successful start. Luke second in the points, Curley third, and James Houghton, if he wouldn't have had windshield fogging at CMP, I think he would have been very strong there and been right up in that points battle.
Another driver that is in the field here this weekend is Scott Heckert, who's driving Jacob Bodenauer's Chevrolet Corvette, a brand new build to GLTC. Scott Heckert, very experienced here at this racetrack, actually won a couple of NASCAR K&N Pro Series races here in 2014 and 2015, and is also time attacking the stock car that he won those races in here this weekend. So he's down in the mid-20s right now working out a new build, but if that gets sorted, he's going to be really dangerous, I think.